If you could take any amount of money and quadruple it in 2 months, you would have to do that, right? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Last Honest Realtor podcast. I'm your host, David Fleming. Thank you for joining me today as we discuss, well, what sounded like kind of a BS late night infomercial clip. I'm picturing that one with the two ladies that say, would you like $1,000, $10,000, or even $100,000? And you know they're probably just going to take your house. No, what we're talking about today is pre-listing renovations, investing in what is your biggest asset. And no, there's limitations. You're not going to invest, $1 billion in your house and quadruple it. But if you own a home and you're getting ready to sell and you might say, invest $10,000, I'm going to explain to you today what we're doing with our clients, why we're doing it, give you some real life examples, and actually show you that yes, sometimes you can quadruple that investment. And oh yeah, it is tax free. Now, I was visiting a property on the east side yesterday and I looked around and I said, 1 month. That's what I said in my mind. I didn't tell the clients that, but I looked around and I said 1 month. That is how long it's going to take for me and my team to get this property ready at maximum potential. And I say that, and I'm going to try to do this podcast today without coming off as a jerk saying, we're the only ones that do this. I know of a couple other agents that do what we do, but very few. And so every agent says that they stage. We know some do better, some don't. Every real estate agent says they're the best. They're all number one in something. You know what I mean? Every single car says that they won some sort of award. How is it possible? Well, you can make numbers say anything you want. And while a lot of people will say that they do what we do, I'm going to show you what we do today, explain it to you, and say as humbly as I can that there are very few people that are putting this level of effort into their pre-listing renovations to maximize the sale potential. So I mentioned this house. I look around and I say 1 month. That is how long it's going to take to properly get this house prepared for sale in a way that would get top dollar in today's market. And that is how I see properties in 2026. Anything less than perfection is a loss. And I've talked in previous podcasts about how the A's are selling and the B's aren't. The C's and D's have no chance. But I've never really sat down and explained to you what we are doing. Now, to me, be brutally honest, this is my team's competitive advantage. I just messaged Lindsay and I said, I need you to go get me another 20 by 10 locker because that is how much stuff we're storing for our clients with pre-listing renovations. My contractor, he's running around like a madman doing what we need to do for all of our listings. This is what we do. It's our competitive advantage. And I don't want this to be an advertorial, but if you were to, let's say, go back to 2004 when I started in this business and you look at what staging was. Staging was an idea. It was just declutter, right? Declutter and tidy. I remember my mother, when we were selling our house in 1992, saying, I need you to tidy up your room. People are coming to look at the house. That's what it was in 92. I got in the business in 04, and staging is, just tidy up, declutter, move some stuff out. Then we have this novel idea. We're going to rent other people's furniture and bring it into our house. You can imagine back then how ridiculous the notion of staging was. Now, slowly but surely, more and more people began to stage. And as I said, in 2026, everyone says that they stage. But if your agent isn't staging, they're a bum. They're an absolute bum. There's no excuse for it. And you're a fool for not staging. You're a fool for not hiring the agent that stages, but your agent's a bum regardless. So anyways, it's a marriage. You guys should be happy together. In 2026, staging is not enough anymore. And this is why we do pre-listing renovations for every property that we list. That is what we're going to talk about today. And as I mentioned, disclaimer, I'm not the only agent out of 70,000 in Toronto that does this. There are others. I don't want to do this podcast and act like we're God's gift to real estate. But just like every other agent says they stage when most don't or do it poorly, there's better or worse agents. There's better or worse mortgage brokers, home inspectors, accountants, lawyers, doctors, dentists, everything. There are a handful of agents that do what we do, and I could name them. I could. I talked to one the other day, big name on the east side, and I said, my God, I could tell the work that you did to get that house ready. She said, you have no idea. And I said, but I do. So without further ado, let me explain the following. What needs to be done in a house? What is the best return on investment? How do you know what to do? Who does it? What are the caveats with certain contractors? Do you need a designer? What do you need permits for? When do you do the reno? How long does it take? Now, let me work through an example. So I get a phone call in November of last year. And clients of mine who have been renting this house out for many years, they said, we're finally ready to move on from it. They bought the house in 2016. They lived there for 2 years and then they moved for work and they said, well, let's put a tenant in there. But at this point, November 2025, they said, we're going to sell it. Now we just sold it in March. Can you do the math on that? That's 5 months. That's how you get top dollar. Now, first and foremost, the house was tenanted. How do we get the tenants out? Well, they're month to month. They can stay forever. So now we have to discuss a buyout. And that's what we did. They didn't force them out. They can't. Tenants know their rights. But we discussed the buyout, and then we discussed the condition of the property. I went into the property, and to be perfectly blunt, it was a mess. Now, not to paint all tenants with the same brush, but tenants, they live harder than owners, if you catch my drift. This house has been tenanted for 8 years. For 8 years, tenants have been there. And tenants, they're not fixing up properties. Landlords do that. And as I explained to my clients, you've had 8 years of tenants in here and you have put nothing into this house. We need to do a major renovation. They said they would listen, and I listed off everything that needed to be done. I then brought my contractor through, and my contractor put together a scope of work and a quote. And my clients said, no, we're not doing it. I said, what do you mean? They said, you want us to spend $40,000? I said, yes, but you're getting an $80,000 renovation. And they said, what do you mean? I'm sure anyone else could say that's going to sound like BS too. But I work with a contractor exclusively who is the best person I've ever met in this business in terms of, well, I shouldn't say that. Behind these walls, there's lots of folks I like, but the best contact I've ever made. And I've had odd jobbers and contractors and all kinds of tradespeople. This guy's amazing. He's not a con artist like most contractors or real estate agents, fine. He does things on time, on budget, on schedule. And I kid you not, that's an $80,000 renovation for 40 grand. And I know this because when I had clients outside the GTA, we had a suburb listing and we provided a quote and they balked at it. I said, do me a favor, go and get somebody else. They did. Now, I think this was like $22,000. They went and got another quote from a guy who wanted 50. And they came back to me. They're like, okay, yeah, you were right. So far be it for me to say, my longtime clients have got the tenanted property. I tell them we're going to do a $40,000 reno. So we reach an agreement with the tenants. They buy them out, a few months rent. And we determine we're going to have this property empty March 1st. Now, the landlords have to agree to this. So as I mentioned, at first they said, no, we're not doing this reno. And I said, I need you guys to come here. I need you guys to come and see the condition of this property. So they did. And I can tell you that the gotcha moment, we were in the kitchen and they had that kind of kitchen tile. There's like the very smooth finish. And then there's the, was it honed versus cleft? This tile was so jagged. It was probably in at some point for a very brief moment, the late 90s, maybe if you're doing a cottage. This tile was so jagged that the kitchen island wobbled. And under the right side of the kitchen island was a shim. A shim is something that you put under it to stop it from moving. But this shim was, wait for it, a crumpled up piece of People magazine. I said to my clients, a crumpled up piece of People magazine jammed underneath of a kitchen island to keep it from stop wobbling does not say $1.6 million. That was it. That was the moment when they said, okay, we're listing. So I told them their house was worth $1,450,000 as is. And they were like, you've got to be kidding. I was like, that's what it's worth as is. You put 40 grand into this house, I think you get 165 to 17. And they were like, come on. I said, yeah, listen, as is. Now, if we clean this thing up, just clean it up, I think it's 1.5. But if we actually do the work and do this reno, I think you're 165 plus. Now, you're going to have to believe me on this. And I know that people want to think, and I see the peanut gallery, real estate agents don't do anything for their 5%. Like, I can't even tell you the amount of work that we put into houses. You walk in and people are hard living. Stuff packed to the ceiling. We're packing it up. We're taking it out. We're moving them out. We're renovating their house. It makes a difference. And I'm going to explain why with this particular listing because you're not going to believe what happens next. So March 1st, the tenant's out. We cram this entire renovation into a 3-week timeline because there are what I call landmines associated with the real estate calendar. You cannot list before a long weekend like Easter and then have people go through and then an offer date thereafter. You've also got spring break. And this is what happens in spring. March and April, you have spring break, you have Easter, you have Passover. So I said we absolutely have to have this property listed for sale the 21st. And I don't have my calendar in front of me. I always like to list on a Tuesday and then take offers the following Monday. So we took up all of the kitchen floor with that awful tile. We took up all of the hallway floor. And then we took up the living room and the dining room floor. We made it all uniform. We painted the kitchen island, sanded it, right? You didn't have to get a new island, but we sanded it and painted it. We painted the kitchen cabinets. You don't have to get new kitchen cabinets, you can paint them. And you're going to say, well, mine can't be painted. You'd be surprised what you can paint. We put new hardware. New hardware and paint gives you a completely different look and feel. Got rid of that old yellowish wood look with something white. The island goes white. We kept the kitchen counters. Well, we fixed all of the floors. We painted everything. The whole house was painted, by the way. And I'll get to that in a moment. Paint is the best return on investment. Now, upstairs, they had awful bathroom vanities. We could have painted those, sanded them, painted them, cleaned them up for $300-400, but if you could buy a new one for $800, go for it. So we did that. We changed all the light fixtures in the house. The runners on the stairs, people don't love carpet or broadloom, if you will. But when you've got the entire staircase as broadloom and you can't really spend the money to go and do hardwood around it, and then it continues upstairs where you have broadloom, this broadloom was hard living. Lots of stains on there. I don't know what happened in those 2 bedrooms, but it was movie worthy. So we put new broadloom in there. The back staircase of a house built in 1889, I believe, bricks crumbling. If you could have seen what that looked like, you'd walk away from that house. We had our guy come in parge and stucco, fix the garage door, did some tuck pointing, painted the front porch, pressure washed. There was a lot of things, and I'm missing a whole bunch of it, but it cost $40,000. We listed this house for sale. We set an offer date. We sold it for $1.8 million. So now you tell me, I don't believe you. I told them that house was worth $145. If you were to get the tenants out, clean it up, it's worth $1.5. They put in $40,000 and they sold it for $1.8. That is what you need to do in today's market. This is not made up. This is legit. This is real. We had 120 people through the open house. We took something that was beat up and tenanted and we made it frickin' beautiful. And we did that within 3 weeks. My contractor said that was his magnum opus, to be able to do that inside of 3 weeks. And we were on time. Now, another case study. I love these guys. It's an older couple, probably mid-70s. They call me last fall and they want to downsize. I walk into their house and I say, I'm all about pre-listing renos. Now, one of the things, sorry, I think it's sinuses. My allergies are killing me. One of the things that I think, and we'll go through the list later, one of the things that can make the biggest difference is the kitchen. Now, their kitchen's beautiful because it's clean and it's in good shape. But what does the buyer want? The buyer wants quartz counters. The buyer wants stainless steel appliances, right? And I'm typecasting, but this is an older couple moving out of a house and a younger couple's going to move in, and you've got to know the demographic. That's part of what this is understanding the buyer pool. You have to understand who's buying the house. So one of the first things I said to these guys, and I'm already laughing, is we'll do new kitchen counters. And she freaked out. Oh, no, we don't want to do counters. We can't do all that. And I said, well, you're not doing it. My contractor is. And she had this idea in her head that like the entire kitchen's going to be ripped off. So I said this to her, and this is my line. If you could snap your fingers and have new counters, would you? She's like, well, yeah. I said, okay, so flush that thought out. If you could swipe your Visa and have new counters, if you could go for a walk and get a coffee and have new counters. And she's like, well, yeah. I said, that is what we're going to do. She said, explain it to me. I said, we're going to have someone come in and take measurements for 10 or 15 minutes. My designer is going to pick a type and a color, and you're going to go out one day, and my contractor's guy is going to come in and they pop it off, because that's all it really is, with a crowbar, undo the sink, take that out to the truck, put the new ones in, voila. She's like, well, it can't be that easy. I said, that is exactly how it works. And she agreed. And when those countertops were installed, she was blowing up my phone. I love these counters. We should have done this years ago. And in actual fact, so they're downsizing to a condo and they're renovating the condo. They picked the exact same counter that my designer, Lucy, had picked for them. So the point to this one is that I had very apprehensive sellers. And my priorities, I said, you have to work on the kitchen. Her thing was, they have an unfinished basement. And she said, we need to paint it down here. And she's an old fashioned, and this might sound kind of sexist, but I mean, again, to generalize, that's kind of how old people are. She said, well, it's going to be bought by a couple and the young lady's going to be doing laundry down here. We need to spruce it up for her. I was like, I do a lot of laundry. I'm not going to tell her that. But the point was made that she felt the money was best spent by painting the walls and the floor of the unfinished basement because that's where the washer dryer were. I said, no, your money is best spent in your kitchen. You have one stainless steel appliance and 2 old black appliances. We need to match those up. We need to pop off your kitchen counters, pop them off. Make it sound so easy. We're going to replace the hardware on the kitchen cabinets. Then we're going to paint everything upstairs. By the way, they had 3 bedrooms with broadloom. We took it out. We didn't take out the floor in the hallway. We tried to match as close as possible. Took out the bathroom vanity, painted the bathroom. I think their reno was probably 20 grand. And again, like when I met them, they said they wanted 1.3. I said I thought we could have got 1.4, and we got 1.5. And I part of me wants to leave out the results because I don't want it to sound salesy, and I also don't want you to say like I don't believe you. But this was incredible what these folks did. And they did not want to do this reno. I pushed them into this and I said, you have to trust me. We have 3 offers on Cranbrook right now. A lot happening. This market's nuts. I'm going to turn my phone off. But as we are doing this podcast, 290 Cranbrook has 3 offers, potentially a 4th coming in. John Wanless School District. What can I say? Everybody wants in right now. But guys, perfect example to talk. 290 Cranbrook. I mean, the reason that we have the 4 offers as they're blowing up my phone right now, here we go, it's on, is because we did the same thing. We put the work into the house. My clients in that house, they moved out. They've got 2 kids. They moved into a rental. I said, I want you out. I want everything in your house out, and I want you to give me the key. We put them in a rental. They moved out, and then we went to work on their house. That was a big reno. We did a lot. Now, there are things that you can do, all of the flooring. And then there's what I call a punch list. A punch list is, this here, this is wiggly, and this thing I always wanted to fix. You can't find people to work on punch lists. Contractors want big jobs. My contractor, we work on real estate listings. If you have a 200 amp panel in the basement with a massive cabinet built around it, but every time you open it, the door falls off, who's going to come fix that? My guy will. We work on punch lists. So one more, guys, case study. I've got a condo. It's a 2-bed, 2-bath. It's in an older building where there's a very old demographic. These units are tired. But you know what's happening in this building is you're starting to see some of the young families come in here. Now, the young families, they want new. They want this building because it's quaint. There's a gatehouse with a guard out front, and you get big units. So maybe we get a downsizer, but who is the stakeholder when it comes to that downsizer? Usually it's like a son or a daughter. You take someone who's 80 years old, they're moving in there. Sure, they don't need la-di-da, but their son or daughter is the one that's pushing them there. They want la-di-da. So we took this unit, and picture in the kitchen where you've got that like 80s light, the drop down with the fluorescent bulbs. Awful, right? Rip that out, okay? Do a false ceiling and put in some pot lights. Get rid of all the appliances. These things were old, man. I'm talking like your grandpa's fridge magnets. Put in all new appliances. We put in all new countertops. We did a new floor. We kept the cabinets, we painted them, and we put on new hardware. This is what I've been saying all along. Didn't touch the hardwood. The hardwood's in amazing shape. But down the hallway, you know what they had? Awful, ugly mirror sliding doors. The ones that will never move along the track. There's nothing worse than trying to move the door and it just won't budge. Said get rid of all of those and we'll do 3 sets of double doors. Beautiful. So now you walk in and it's like walking down museum wall, right? On this side, you've got the wall. On this side, you've got these beautiful new doors with a nice design to it and black handles. We changed every hinge in the condo. The gold hinges? Because you have gold doorknobs. Now, if you're going to change the knobs, you got to change the hinges. Who's changing hinges? We change the hinges. Who's changing the hinges? We change the hinges. There you go. There's my radio jingle. But when you're right down to frickin' hinges, guys, we're building a giant dollhouse. We changed both bathroom vanities. We reglazed the bathtub. We didn't take the tile out of the standing shower because that would be expensive. We glazed it. What is glazing? It sounds like painting with maybe just a little bit more longevity. My clients were so happy. She had lived there, then her mother had lived there, and then she had moved back in. This was a giant dollhouse for my client. She was so emotionally invested in this, and the reno that we did by the end was unbelievable. And again, I'm not going to get into results, but I'm very, very happy with what went down. Now, I sometimes talk about my mom in my podcasts, as I've been told. Guess who's moving? That's right. Mom's moving. Mom's moving, and guess who's doing a reno of their house? In fact, Mom's living with us right now. That's right. I woke up this morning. I came down here. Hello. And there's Mom knitting, right? She's sitting there. What's old? Like, you get to an age you have to knit. It's actually the law in this country. Yeah. My mom sells stuff on Etsy. Old people, right? My mom's house was built in 2001, and it's in great shape because that's what old people do, but it's dated as heck. So Sunday night of the Masters, Rory McIlroy is coming down 18, and I'm like, this is it. He's going to do it. And then he puts his tee shot in the trees. So I decided right then and there, it's time to move all of Mom's furniture into the kitchen because we're having the floors done the next day. My daughter's there. She's like, Daddy, what are you doing? I was like, I can't handle Rory right now. I can't watch this, right? Remember when the Blue Jays were blowing the World Series? I didn't want to get into it. I had to walk up and down the street in my neighborhood. So we moved all the furniture into my mom's kitchen. I left one chair. And she's like, you could move that. I can sit on the floor. We're going to redo all of her floors. It's not expensive. That hardwood's in great shape. It's from 2001. Rory won, by the way, 2 in a row. He's my guy. Not really a fan of any athlete. The Jays, no. The Leafs are a joke if you're a Leafs fan. You know, they've won 13 Stanley Cups, but they've never won when there was more than 6 teams in the league. Figure that out. I know you're a Leafs fan. But Rory is my guy. Always has been. So I will always remember that time. Rory won the Masters. I was moving furniture. My daughter was wrapping up all my mom's tchotchkes. And now Mom lives with us. We're redoing all her floors. We're redoing bathroom vanities. We're putting in new kitchen counters. We're painting the kitchen cabinets. We're putting on new hardware. We're not touching the basement, but we're going to paint most of the house. Here's the thing about touch-ups. They don't work. I'm just going to do some touch-ups. You can see it. By the time you have someone come in and try to do touch-ups, you might as well just paint everything. So Mom is going to be moving. I'm excited for her. And Mom's house is undergoing a pre-listing reno. So put your money where your mouth is, David. You're telling everyone you absolutely have to renovate. Yeah, you do, because my mother is doing it. Now, there are a lot of smaller projects out there too. Like we had one on Shaw. Was I giving addresses? I don't know. We had one on Shaw where we had that punch list, right? Like they had a really nice runner that went down the stairs to their basement in this old Edwardian home. They also had a cat that had been effing with it for like 8 years. So we replaced that. The house was plaster. Oh God, plaster's so hard to work with. Because you know what? There's no like 21-year-old that's like, I'm really going to go into plastering. He's like, I could be an Instagram influencer and just contribute absolutely nothing to society and then try to profit from that. Or maybe I could figure out how to plaster. No one does it. In fact, there is one person in the city of Toronto that works on plaster. He's an old Italian guy who has a dart hanging out of his mouth, and he's 148 years old. No one works on plaster. So we had to repair all of the old plaster in this house because it was built, I think, in 1910. We had to paint, grout, tile, just a big old punch list, but we did it. And it wasn't major, but it was enough to be able to put this house together, move everything out, and sell it for top dollar. Now, how about a case study? I can't give an address. I saw a house not too long ago in Danforth Village. I walked in. Living room's green, kitchen's blue, bedroom's pink. Why didn't you paint everything white? You're the people that say, it doesn't matter, buyers can see through it. I can tell you through 22 years of experience, they can't, and they won't. I looked at that house and I said, the agent didn't tell the seller. And if the agent did tell the seller and the seller said no, the agent didn't push back. Now, I don't want to get into a whole thing about commission and discount, but you get what you pay for. Let's say that this was a discount agent that just didn't offer really anything and they saved 1% of commission. You save 10 grand. I can get you 100,000 more for that house if we do it my way. And again, comment, go to the comments, tell me if you don't believe me, and that's fine. I wouldn't want to believe me either if I didn't own real estate and lived in a basement and hated everyone that owns a house. I got really political there. I did. But I don't hate young people for being young, even though you have exactly what I want. Right. So what are the pre-listing renovations that we do the most often? First and foremost, guys, is painting. There is no better return on investment than painting. Every house should be painted. Any color. Paint it white. Paint it off-white. It should be boring. I don't want to paint it. It's a feature wall. Yeah, it's yellow. We like colorful houses. Oh, yeah, good for you. When you move, you can do whatever you want. You know what buyers want? Buyers want consistency. Buyers want to be bored. All of our listings are painted white, and then you use color with throw pillows and artwork. Second, lighting. First of all, a poorly lit house sucks. But what about awful lights? What about that yellowed track light? Oh, it was white when you bought it in 1997, and now it's all burned. What about the one that's falling apart? What about the 3 bulbs with the glass around it, but one of the pieces of glass is broken and it's not consistent? Guys, light fixtures are not expensive, but you need a house to be lit up like a freaking jack-o'-lantern, and you need them to be new. These are not expensive things. Third, flooring. I mentioned the address. I mentioned the house that I had with that awful jagged tile. Replace the whole thing. You can replace it. You can refinish it. We had a kitchen once that the tile was so bad. The quote was $8,000 to take up all the tile and redo it. You know what we did? Got stick down. Stuck it down. I'm always thinking about what people are going to say in response. David, don't you need to disclose that? No, you don't. Oh, do I need to disclose that we stuck down linoleum stick down tile over top of ugly tile? No. Why would I need to disclose that? No. God, no. Fourth, kitchen cabinets. You don't have to rip them off. Paint them. We're painting them at my mom's and put on new hardware. My mom's so cute. I was like, Mom, how many knobs are in the house? She gave me like a spreadsheet. All the knobs in the kitchen, all the knobs in the vanities, and then you go and buy them on Amazon. You screw them in like this. Number 5, kitchen counters. If you do not have a stone counter, granite, quartz, Caesar stone, that's the same thing. You need one. No one wants a laminate counter. And if you have the awful, ugly granite with the triple beveled edge, right, that's like black with speckles of gold, or it's got that like cheetah pattern, you can replace a granite counter with a granite counter. I mean, everyone's doing Corian these days. But when you do that, economies of scale will say, hey, it's time to put in a new undermount sink with a new faucet. Because if you're ripping the counter off, you might as well do the sink as well. Number 6, bathroom vanities. There's nothing worse than a bathroom vanity that is worn as heck, because bathrooms have water in them. All those times you brush your teeth, all those times you wash your face. Think of the guy in the like shaving commercial from the 80s, and in slow motion, he would splash water on his face and it would go everywhere. When I started shaving, when I was like 17, 18, I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And my mom was like, why are you splashing water everywhere? I was like, because the guy in the Gillette commercial in slow motion, he splashes water all over his face. And then some chick like wearing his dress shirt and no pants walks up behind and puts her arms around him. I'm 17. I thought that's how you're supposed to shave. But bathrooms get water everywhere. The vanity, it's waterlogged. It's made of particle board. And worse is like the big mirrors that are stuck to the wall too. And they were like, an inch wide, and now they're 2 inches wide because they're covered in water. Bathroom vanities are very important to replace. You get Gillette commercial shaving dudes like me in there for 10 years, and that's what you're gonna see. So while you might be able to sand them down and paint them and put in new hardware, you could also just rip them out and replace them. These things are sold in a box at Home Depot. You're not picking counters for these. Then you buy a cheap Moen faucet and voila. Now, number 7, carpet. My note here, replace carpet with carpet, ? Yeah. I mean, if you've got a staircase and under the carpet is just plywood, you're not hardwooding that thing. Is that a verb? Just replace the carpet with carpet. It's the easiest thing to do, and it's not that expensive. Front steps and porch, number 8. We continue to look at front steps that are brutalized. And you think about Canadian winters, you think about the salt, you think about the shovels and chipping away at it. And you think about painted staircases that are going to start to look like crap after a few years. That's your first impression right there. Paint your porch, replace any boards that are rotting. And if you've got the old concrete one, we've got a reno guide. It's not actually up on TRG, Toronto Realty Group's website yet. I've been working on it. When I put that up, you will see the before and afters. We do a lot of those. And number 9 here, the back staircase. I am telling you, nothing scares people more than when you open the back door from the basement and you see all those bricks look like they're about to fall out of the wall. It is so simple. The one we did with the place I sold for $1.8 million was $2,000. $2,000 to take a rotting, archaic, falling apart staircase, completely stucco it, and make it look like new. This thing was smooth. It was like sheets of paper. And last but not least, number 10, curb appeal. So Tara and I had a listing where It was basically land value. It was a house that very sadly, someone had lived there well past when she should have, and nothing was kept up. The front of the house was so overgrown, you couldn't see it. Now, the owner's son, interviewed 5 or 6 agents. And when we got the listing, he said, you were the only ones that said you actually wanted to do something to the house. Everyone else said, it's land value, just leave it. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you talked about restoring its dignity. Yeah. Well, no one else said that. They just said it's land value. What we did was we clear cut everything in front. This house was so overgrown that one of the neighbors walked by and he said, I've lived on this street for 8 years. I've never seen the house. It was so overgrown. The grounds had massive shrubs and bushes that were never meant to be there. And the trees were so overgrown, they were blocking the entire house. When we clear cut this, we didn't touch the inside of the house because it was in fact land value. What it did was show the house from the street. When we ended up with 2 offers, one from a builder lowballing because it's land value, and one from an end user that saw the structure and wanted to renovate it. We wouldn't have got that if we didn't put the work in, and that was just landscaping. You know what? We did it ourselves. This was in the summer. I like working. I like getting my hands dirty sometimes. I went in the backyard on Sunday. I took apart my kid's old rotting playhouse. It took me 2 hours, threw it out front, took it to the dump, So sometimes, yeah, let's do it. Absolutely. And when it came down to that, it was cool. I don't know. I like using a chainsaw. What can I say? Now, it cost the seller nothing. It cost us, labor and junk removal. It was a lot. It was close to 100 bags, right, that you get from Home Depot, the lawn bags. Anyways, to belabor that point, or not, curb appeal. So guys, in conclusion, what I had said at the beginning, which kind of sounded like a line, if you could take 20 grand and quadruple it, would you do that? Yes, you would if you knew it was there. A lot of agents don't have the knowledge to take you there, but even the ones that know that yes, you could, they don't have the capability. And listen, if my contractor moved, to Australia tomorrow, I would be screwed. He is incredible, and he is a huge part of what we do. So I'm not saying that I'm the one out there other than chainsawing the trees for that house I mentioned. I'm not actually doing the work, but what I am doing is taking the knowledge of what needs to be done, understand the buyer pool that's out there and what they want, understand what's selling in the market, and then look around the house and say, what can we do? What should we do? Because I have clients that will say, here's what I want to do. I'm like, no, you're not going to get your money out of that. But as I have mentioned, the things that I listed off, the case studies that I have shown you, these are real, guys. And that one house I mentioned where they put 40 grand in and it, sold for 250,000 more than we think. I know you're saying you don't believe that. It cannot be. But real estate is bought and sold with emotion. It really is. And when someone says, I love this house, I got to have it, and they make a bid, and there's 2 people behind them that have, comparable bids, and there's 2 people behind them, that is what it's worth. That is what it's worth. So if you're taking a 1.5 house, putting 50 grand in, it's not worth 155 if you're selling it for 1.7. In this case, we got significantly more. So that's it for me, folks, for this week. If you have any questions on this, email me, call me. I love chatting about pre-listing renovations. We're doing a lot of them, legit. And I mentioned the one that I went in the other day and I was like, this is a month. But that is where we are in this market. So guys, as I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email me directly. Comments, I welcome them in the YouTube comment section below. Please remember to like, comment, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you here next time on The Last Honest Realtor.